In the heart of the city of Alexandria, in the 20s of the last century, and among the alleys of the noisy neighborhood of Al-Laban, between poverty and hunger, lived two sisters who changed the shape of crime in the history of Egypt forever. Raya and Sakina Ali Hammam. In the year 1920, and at the time of the Egyptians' revolution against the British occupation, when the eyes of the state were preoccupied with politics and resistance, inside those dark alleys, something even darker was happening in terrifying silence, without any mercy. Raya was born in 1875. She used to work with her mother at a tea stall in Kafr al-Zayat. She married while still young, but her husband died. Then she married his brother, according to the customs of that time, Hassaballah Said, whom she loved very much and spent on him so that he would stay with her. Because of him and her brother Abu al-Ala, she was imprisoned for 3 months for theft. After her release, she traveled after her husband, who had fled to Alexandria. As for Sakina, she was born 10 years after Raya. She was working in a cotton gin before she ran away from her husband and went to work in a brothel in Mansoura. There, she met the medical orderly Ahmed Ragab, got married, and went to Alexandria. She divorced him when she met Abdel Al and loved him. Sakina then decided to open a cafe. She was wasting her money on Abdel Al and her addiction to alcohol. As for Raya, she opened a brothel with Hassaballah, and she was luring women to work with her. And by fate and through their work, the gang gathered in one path, and Arabi Al, Suwaymai, and Abdel Razek joined them. They decided to rob the women working in prostitution, who at that time were turning their money into gold. Their first victim was Qadra Mohammed. When they could not steal from her, they decided at that moment to kill her. And they planned to kill the victims in a simple and diabolical way. The victim would be lured into the house, eat and drink with them, and feel reassured that she was among family. But in one single moment of silence, Raya would send the signal, the door would close, and the men would gather around the victim before she could realize what was happening. They would wrap a wet cloth around her neck, tie her up, and strangle her with treachery, and without any mercy. After that, they would dig under the tiles, bury the bodies one over the other, and put the tiles back in place quietly, as if nothing had happened. And Raya and Sakina would burn incense in the place to cover the smell that never dies. Then they would take the gold, go sell it, and the jeweler at the time would buy it from them at a quarter of its price, because he knew it was stolen. People were suspicious of them. Even though Raya would claim grief every time a victim disappeared, sitting with the families, crying and mourning while the corpse was beneath her in the same house. The families of the victims used to go and file reports against them every time a woman disappeared. But Raya and Sakina were clever. Each time they managed to escape the accusation, until one day changed everything. In November 1920, during the installation of a water network inside Sakina's old house, the workers found something terrifying under the tiles: human bones. The police were summoned, and they began digging to discover one of the most horrific surprises in the history of Egyptian crime: the remains of a woman, wrapped in cloth and buried. A series of quick raids were launched on the houses of Raya and Sakina. Officers found other corpses buried in the same way. The final number was 17 bodies. The police summoned Dr. Sidney Smith, who, with his genius, was able to determine details of the bodies that helped the police identify the victims. The police arrested the gang. They had agreed well on what they would say, no matter the pressure, and they were on the path to acquittal until the person who solved the case appeared. The police summoned Captain Ibrahim Hamdi from Cairo, specifically to help solve the case. With his intelligence, he was able to discover the missing link, Badia, the daughter of Raya, who confessed everything about them. At that point, the gang collapsed, as they began accusing one another in an attempt to escape the hangman's rope. The trial then began, a trial considered the strangest in modern Egyptian history. 2 women in the dock, charged with deliberate and repeated murder. On the 16th of May, 1921, the death sentence by hanging was pronounced against them, and the execution was carried out in December of the same year inside Al-Hadara prison. This was the first time in Egypt's history that women were executed in front of public opinion. Some journalists and representatives of the prosecution attended the final session, and the proceedings of the execution were recorded in the official court documents. After the verdict, Badia was sent to an orphanage in Alexandria, where she remained until she died in 1925 under mysterious circumstances at the age of no more than 16. Some reports claimed that her death was the result of grief and remorse over testifying against her own mother. More than 100 years later, the story of Raya and Sakina is still told and retold, adapted into plays and films. Yet beneath all these retellings, the truth remains stranger than fiction. 17 corpses were buried under the floor tiles, without mourning, without farewell, and without graves' names erased from official memory, such as Qadra bint Muhammad, Nabawiya bint Goma, and others. And if you have watched till the end, thank you very much. Stay tuned for the next story.